That's a lot. And the short answer to that is good game. All right, short answer to that is do good game. Especially I say that because you're talking about content from two different kind of phases in game. The first part, you're talking about getting attraction, getting the girl to want to please you. And then the second, you're talking about how you're framing things and the way you're going about getting to know her and that sort of stuff. So we're talking within the scope of my program, The System. We talk about the second and third phases, which first one's open, but the next is premise, making it man to woman and establishing that kind of vibe of attraction, flirtation, that kind of stuff. And the next one is evaluation, which is what you're explicitly talking about, her getting her to prove herself to you. Okay, so essentially what we're talking is do good game. However, in terms of communication specifically, there are channels on which you're going to be communicating that you are a high value or low value guy. And there are some nonverbal ones and then a lot of verbal ones. On a nonverbal level, is things like body language, like do you seem like you're confident, or do you seem like you're shy and like scared, those kind of things. How's your tone of voice, right? Is your voice, again, timid and questioning, or is it confident, resonant, that you have some belief in yourself, those kind of things. The biggest thing, though, is going to be the words you use, and specifically the story that you're telling her with every single sentence out of your mouth, every single assumption that comes out of what you're saying. So let me give you some examples. One would be there's this idea of a thing called a false time constraint we use in game. If a girl seems like, she's a little hesitant to talk or she's in a hurry or something like that, what we say is, yeah, I gotta go in a minute, but anyway. And that basically gives her permission to stay because you're not gonna stay, you're not gonna necessarily keep her there for half an hour. You're willing to accept an interaction not going very long. And so it makes her more comfortable. A lot of guys, though, what they'll do instead of saying, like, I got to go in a minute, etc., they'll say, I won't take up too much of your time. Notice the difference between that. I got to go in a minute, and I won't take up too much of your time. I got to go in a minute means I have things to do. I only have a minute to talk to you. I won't take up too much of your time says, I'm a burden, I'm a bother, I know I'm annoying you, I'll go away quickly. That subtle conveyance, or maybe not so subtle conveyance, of how you believe your value relative to hers is going to speak volumes to how she perceives you and how the rest of the interaction transpires. And it's actually a snowball effect, because if you start out with her perceiving you in a really good way, then all the other things you're going to do are easier and easier to do, and you're coming from a better frame, and it's easier to keep establishing better frames. If you start out with her perceiving you in a negative way, you're going to get a lot of maybe shit tests, a lot of negativity, a lot of non-responsiveness, and they're going to be forced to try harder. And those things, because you're trying harder, is going to be low value, and it's going to snowball the opposite direction, right? You can recover a bad interaction, but it's just a lot easier to start it out good from the start. Okay, so that's one example of a high value versus low value thing. Another thing would be if you were just like, let's see, hi, I wanted to come over and see if maybe we would get along, something like that. If you're like all hesitant and whatnot, as opposed to, hey, excuse me, I want to come over and I find out if you're a cool person. Something like that, right? Framing it as, do you like me versus do I like you? Again, setting up the proper frame. And these are things that are going to they'll traverse the two categories, premise and evaluation. In premise, what you're doing is by assuming a cocky frame, you are conveying yourself as an attractive guy, that if she accepts that frame, she's accepting you as an attractive guy. It also is conveying yourself in a way that might elicit shit tests, which is a good opportunity for you to convey more attraction. So it's good per se in premise, but you're also specifically already talking about the future evaluation. You're talking about the fact that the frame around this conversation, the way that you're perceiving this, is one where she's going to be convincing you rather than you convincing her, which progresses things very, very nicely. So what I'm going to suggest to you is be confident. Be even a little bit cocky, maybe even be a little bit like brash. Like, I'm not gonna say you should be over the top and offensive, but most guys are so inoffensive and so polite and over polite that what you would consider offensive is still a fraction of what you should be doing. Okay, so if you are an overly polite guy, I'm gonna suggest you do what is potentially offensive to you, because it's likely it's not gonna be offensive to her at all. So you need to at least find kind of where that limit is. So a guideline I give to guys a lot, I say don't try and go out and be polarizing and offensive, but don't go out and try not to be either. If there's something that comes to your mind and you're like, oh, I can't say that, it's too polarizing, just say it anyway. But don't be like, what is the most offensive thing I could possibly say? That's not gonna work, okay? But you do wanna take a strong frame, and take a frame that is that you are attractive in some way, and take a frame that, if true, would lead to a positive interaction, at least friends, possibly sex. Okay, you want to take on that kind of positive frame because it's, number one, going to get you more traction, and number two, it's going to set the stage for that next phase, that transition into evaluating the girl, having her trying to prove herself and win you over. All right, so that's the answer to that question. If you want your question answered, post it below. Also, if you like these videos, like, subscribe, help us out on the channel in that way, and help yourself out so you don't miss any of our content. Talk to you soon. Take care.